The moment Jake Wilson stepped into his boss's office that rainy Tuesday evening, everything he thought he knew about Sarah Reynolds, the untouchable CEO of Reynolds Enterprises, shattered. There she sat, the woman who commanded boardrooms with steel-eyed precision, her face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. What happened next would not only change both their lives forever but redefine what it means to be truly strong.
Like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming content that remind us how unexpected connection can change everything. Next part enjoyed.
Jake's fingers trembled as he knocked on the heavy oak door of the CEO's office. It was nearly 9 p.m., and the sprawling office building had emptied hours ago. Only the occasional security guard and the cleaning staff remained, and Jake, who had returned to retrieve his daughter's inhaler from his desk drawer. He hadn't expected to find the lights still on in Sarah Reynolds' corner office. "Come in," came the voice, lacking its usual commanding tone. Jake hesitated. He was just a mid-level marketing manager who'd been with the company for barely 8 months. His interactions with the CEO had been limited to group meetings and the occasional elevator ride where she'd acknowledge him with a curt nod. But something in her voice made him turn the handle. "Ms. Reynolds, I'm sorry to disturb you. I just came back to get," the words died in his throat. Sarah Reynolds sat behind her massive desk, her normally impeccable appearance in disarray. Her blazer was draped over a chair, mascara streaked down her cheeks, and a crumpled tissue clutched in her hand. When she looked up, the vulnerability in her eyes struck him like a physical blow. "Mr. Wilson." She straightened, attempting to compose herself. "I didn't realize anyone was still here." "I was just leaving," Jake said, backing toward the door. "I didn't mean to intrude." "Wait." The word hung between them. "Please, just wait." Jake stood frozen, unsure what to do. In the 3 years since his wife's death, he'd become accustomed to navigating uncertain situations. Single parenthood had taught him that, but this was different. This was Sarah Reynolds, the woman whose face graced business magazines, whose reputation for brilliance was matched only by rumors of her ruthlessness. "Would you like some water?" he offered lamely, gesturing to the pitcher on her credenza. A small, broken laugh escaped her. "Water?" "Yes. Thank you." As he poured the glass, Jake noticed the framed photo on her desk had been turned face down. When he handed her the water, their fingers brushed, and he saw something he recognized all too well in her eyes: grief. "Today would have been my daughter's birthday," she said, the words tumbling out as if she'd been holding them back for hours. "She would have been 12. Jake's heart stopped. "Would have been?" Sarah's gaze dropped to her desk. "Cancer. 3 years ago." The silence that followed felt sacred somehow. Jake slowly sank into the chair across from her desk. "My wife," he said finally. 3 years ago too. Car accident." Sarah looked up, really seeing him for the first time. "Your daughter. Emma, isn't it?" Jake blinked in surprise. "You know my daughter's name?" "I make it my business to know my employees, Mr. Wilson. Especially the ones raising children alone." She wiped at her eyes. "How old is Emma now?" 8. "Going on 30, he said with a small smile. That's how old Lily was when she was diagnosed." Sarah's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm telling you this. We've barely spoken." "Sometimes it's easier to talk to a stranger," Jake said gently. Sarah nodded, then reached for the overturned frame. She hesitated before turning it around to reveal a smiling girl with her mother's eyes and a bright yellow headband holding back dark curls. "She was beautiful," Jake said. "She was everything." Sarah traced the edge of the frame with her fingertip. "I built this company for her. To show her that women could be powerful, that she could be anything." A bitter laugh escaped her. "And then I missed her final months because I was in Tokyo closing a deal that seemed so important at the time." Jake recognized the self-recrimination in her voice. He'd carried his own version of it for years. "I'm sure you were doing what you thought was best," he offered. "Was I?" Sarah's eyes flashed. "Or was I hiding? It's easier to bury yourself in work than to watch your child suffer." She shook her head. "I'm sorry. You didn't come here for this." "Actually," Jake said, "I came back for Emma's inhaler. She has asthma, and I realized I'd left her spare one in my desk." Something shifted in Sarah's expression. "You came back to the office at 9 p.m. for your daughter's inhaler? She probably won't need it tonight, but..." Jake shrugged. "I couldn't sleep knowing it wasn't there if she did." Sarah stared at him for a long moment before saying the words that would change everything. "I think I've been doing it all wrong, Mr. Wilson. All of it. And I think you might be the person who can help me fix it." The following weeks brought subtle changes to Reynolds Enterprises. The CEO, who once scheduled meetings at 7 a.m., now refused to begin the workday before 9, citing a new company-wide wellness initiative. The executive, who had never taken more than a weekend off, suddenly announced she would be personally reviewing the company's parental leave policies. For Jake, the changes were more personal. What had begun as an awkward encounter evolved into coffee meetings to discuss his ideas about work-life balance. Sarah listened intently as he described the challenges of raising Emma alone while maintaining his career. "I don't want to be just a good provider," he told her one afternoon as they sat in the company courtyard. "I want to be present. Emma deserves that." "And what about you?" Sarah asked. "What do you deserve?" The question caught him off guard. "I haven't thought about that in a long time." "Perhaps you should," she said, her eyes holding his a moment longer than necessary. As summer approached, Sarah implemented a 4-day workweek pilot program. The announcement came with a personal email to Jake: "Your daughter only gets one childhood. Don't miss it like I did." The first Friday of the program, Jake took Emma to the zoo. As they stood watching the elephants, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah: "How's your day off?" He smiled and sent back a photo of Emma laughing, her face painted like a butterfly. The response came immediately: "Perfect." That evening, after tucking Emma into bed, Jake found himself staring at Sarah's text. On impulse, he wrote, "Emma's having a small birthday party tomorrow at Westside Park. Nothing fancy, just cake and a few friends. You're welcome to join us." He hit send before he could second-guess himself, then spent the next hour regretting it. Sarah Reynolds didn't attend children's birthday parties. She probably had meetings with international clients or charity galas to attend. His phone buzzed at 11:23 p.m. What time? And should I bring a gift? Sarah arrived at the park clutching a wrapped package and looking decidedly out of place in designer jeans and a casual blouse that probably cost more than Jake's monthly rent. She hovered at the edge of the gathering until Emma spotted her. "You're my dad's boss," Emma exclaimed, running over. "Did you come for cake?" Sarah knelt to Emma's level, something Jake had never seen her do with anyone. "I did. And I brought you something. Happy birthday, Emma." Emma tore into the package with the enthusiasm only an 8-year-old could muster. Inside was a telescope, not a toy one, but a serious beginner's model. "Wow." Emma's eyes widened. "Is this really for me?" "Your dad mentioned you've been interested in stars lately," Sarah said, glancing up at Jake with a small smile. "How did you know?" Jake asked later, as they watched Emma and her friends taking turns looking through the telescope at the daylight moon. "I listen," Sarah said simply. Then, more quietly, Lily loved the stars too. She used to say that even when she couldn't see them, she knew they were there. Jake felt something shift between them. "Thank you for coming today. I know you must have had more important things to do." Sarah turned to him, her expression serious. "That night in my office, you said something that stayed with me. You came back for your daughter's inhaler because you couldn't sleep knowing it wasn't there if she needed it. She looked back at the children playing. I've been wondering what else I've been missing while I was busy being important. As the party wound down and parents collected their children, Sarah helped Jake pack up the remaining cake and decorations. Would you and Emma like to join me for dinner sometime? She asked suddenly, her usual confidence momentarily faltering. Not as colleagues. As friends. Jake studied her face, the face he'd seen transform from corporate mask to genuine smile as she watched Emma blow out her candles. I think we'd like that very much. Summer turned to fall, and dinner became a regular occurrence. Sometimes at Sarah's elegant penthouse, sometimes at Jake's modest apartment where Emma insisted on cooking pasta with too much sauce. Sarah brought work home less often. Jake found himself sharing stories about his late wife without the usual ache in his chest. One evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Sarah and Jake sat on his small balcony, sharing a bottle of wine. The board is pleased with the 4-day workweek results, Sarah said. Productivity is up, and employee satisfaction scores have never been higher. That's because people have time to remember why they're working in the first place, Jake replied. Sarah nodded, then hesitated before adding, they've asked me to consider expanding the program to our European offices. That's great news. It would mean traveling to London and Paris. For about 2 weeks. She twisted her wine glass stem between her fingers. I've been putting it off. Why? Sarah looked at him, vulnerability clear in her eyes. Because for the first time since Lily died, I have something here that matters more than work. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Sarah. I know it's complicated, she interrupted. I'm your boss. You're a single father. We both carry our own grief. But these past months. She took a deep breath. These past months have reminded me what it feels like to be alive again. Jake reached across the small table and took her hand. Emma asked me yesterday if you were my girlfriend. Sarah's eyebrows rose. What did you tell her? I told her that you were someone very special to both of us, and that sometimes grown-ups take time to figure things out. And what have you figured out, Jake Wilson? He looked at their intertwined fingers. That grief doesn't have to be the end of the story. That maybe we can help each other write a new chapter. Sarah's eyes glistened in the dim light. I'd like that. The London trip was postponed, then rescheduled, then postponed again. When Sarah finally boarded the plane, she carried a handmade card from Emma and a promise from Jake to call every evening, no matter the time difference. On her third night away, as she sat in her hotel room reviewing contracts, her phone rang with a video call. Sorry to bother you, Jake said, his face tight with worry. Emma had an asthma attack. We're at the hospital. She's okay now, but... I'm coming home, Sarah said immediately. Sarah, you don't have to. I'm coming home, she repeated, already closing her laptop. Some things are more important than business deals. She arrived at the hospital 14 hours later, disheveled and exhausted. When she reached Emma's room, she found Jake asleep in a chair beside the bed, his hand resting protectively near Emma's smaller one. Emma's eyes fluttered open. Sarah, she whispered. You came back. Of course I did, sweetheart. Sarah moved to the bedside, smoothing Emma's hair back from her forehead. How are you feeling? Better now. Emma's gaze shifted to her sleeping father. Daddy was scared, but he pretended not to be. That's what parents do, Sarah said softly. Like you do with your work people? Sarah smiled. Sometimes. But I'm learning that it's okay to let people see when you're scared or sad. Emma considered this. Is that why Daddy likes you? Because you let him see? The question caught Sarah off guard. I don't know, sweetie. You'd have to ask him. I did, Emma said matter-of-factly. He said it's because you make him brave enough to be happy again. Sarah felt her throat tighten. She looked at Jake, still asleep in the uncomfortable hospital chair, the man who had walked into her office on the worst day of the year and somehow made it bearable. He makes me brave too, she whispered. 6 months later, the Reynolds Enterprises annual charity gala looked different than in previous years. For one thing, it started at 6 p.m. instead of 8, allowing employees with families to attend. For another, the CEO arrived with a date, her marketing director, and his daughter, who wore a yellow headband that matched the one in the new photo on Sarah's desk, Lily and Emma, side by side in a digitally created image that Sarah called "My Girls." As Jake watched Sarah address the crowd, speaking passionately about the company's new foundation for pediatric cancer research, he felt Emma tug at his sleeve. "Dad," she whispered loudly, "when are you going to ask Sarah to marry us?" From the podium, Sarah faltered mid-sentence, her eyes finding Jake's across the room. A slow smile spread across her face as a murmur rippled through the audience. Jake knelt beside his daughter. "Emma, microphones are very sensitive. Everyone just heard you." Emma's eyes widened. "Oops." The crowd laughed, and Sarah composed herself. "As I was saying, this foundation represents our commitment to fighting for what matters most, our children, our families, our future." Her gaze locked with Jake's. "And sometimes, the most important business decisions are the ones we make with our hearts." Later that night, as they walked along the riverfront, Emma skipping ahead to count stars, Jake finally asked the question his daughter had broadcast to 300 of the city's most influential people. Sarah's answer was immediate, "Yes. To both of you." As they sealed the promise with a kiss, Sarah whispered against his lips, "That night in my office, when you found me crying. I never told you what I was thinking when you walked in." "What was it?" Jake asked. "I was thinking that I couldn't do this anymore, the loneliness, the emptiness of success without anyone to share it with. And then there you were, this man who rearranged his entire life around loving his daughter." She touched his face gently. "You showed me that grief doesn't have to be the end. That love can find us again, even when we think we've lost everything." Emma ran back to them, pointing excitedly at the sky. "Look! A shooting star. Make a wish." Jake and Sarah exchanged glances, both thinking of the children they had loved and lost, and the unexpected family they had found. "I don't need to," Sarah said, wrapping her arms around them both. "I already have everything I could wish for."
If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that remind us for our shared humanity. Until next time, remember that behind every title position is a person with hopes, fear, and the capacity for transformation.